Loading, and all right, here we go. And welcome to a special morning edition for me of Inside the Distance. We have our third volume of the Savage sessions here, and we could only have those with the Savage herself, Gillian Robertson. Good afternoon or evening from Fight Island.
Yeah, it's about 6 p.m. over here right now, so a little bit of a time change, and it's been a little bit of a hassle getting over here with all the COVID tests and everything, but we're here, and we're here to work.
Yeah, so I just had my first COVID test because I'm getting ready to go home to see my mom. An equally badass reason to have COVID tests as you. How many COVID tests have you had over the last week?
I had one while I was still in Florida. I had one in Vegas, then a 2-day quarantine, and then fly to Abu Dhabi, get one on the first day, one on the second day, and then from every Tuesday and Thursday, everyone is tested here on the island. So every Tuesday and Friday, everybody's tested. So tomorrow, I think I have my 6th, I want to say.
Yeah, so you're just a well-traveled veteran when it comes to tests at this point. Do you do you even get nervous that you're gonna just one of these millions of tests is gonna pop up negative and you're gonna have does that even cross your mind at all, or are you just not even concerned with that?
No, I think it's pretty safe on the island here, and they're like I said, we're tested literally twice a week, every week, and the only person I've really seen is Dean Thomas. Other than that, I'm pretty much in my hotel room by myself, so it's not too big of a worry for me.
Gotcha. And then with Dean, of course, for those who don't know, you just had a little promotion, something you've been working at for 9 or so years. You got your promoted to your black belt by Dean. Tell me a little bit about, were you expecting that, first of all? And I mean, just kind of go where you want with that. But what was that whole situation like?
So my first day out of quarantine on Fight Island here, Dean texted me. He was like, "Hey, come up to my room. I got something to give you." So I go up there, and he has this big penthouse suite, and he has somebody videotaping. But it's I'm used to people videotaping shit around him because he's always just doing stuff for the UFC, trying to do stuff for Instagram, things like that. So it wasn't I wasn't thinking anything of it. And then he gives me this whole speech about how we've worked together, and he sees things that he used to see in himself in his fight career and me, and that he wants me to be his legacy, and that kind of carry on his name, carry on his style. So and then after that, he pulled out the black belt. And in that moment, I was able to keep myself composed. I didn't want to cry in front of Dean. Yeah. But then the second I left his hotel room, I was crying the whole way back to my hotel room, walking past people just with tears down my eyes and a black belt in my hands. And I'm everybody probably thinks I'm insane right now. And then obviously it was 3 a.m., 2 a.m., something like that over in where all my friends and family live. So I was texting everybody excited as anything, and nobody's getting back to me because everybody's sleeping. So I'm just here in my hotel room, excited as anything, sobbing my eyes out, and just by myself.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, congratulations again. It's just I've said it before, but you and Dean, I think it's just one of these duos that it's so unique for this sport and just in general. And yeah, you could not deserve it more. Yeah, congrats from Dave here. He's saying that's not me writing congrats there, although I also agree. Garrett also joining in, and then save us in 2024, which I don't think she'll be old enough still to be our president, but she's Canadian. But yeah, that is just that's a huge deal. Where does that kind of rank within kind of accomplishments you've had within kind of combat sports in general?
Honestly, it's probably the biggest to this point in my career, probably in line with making it to the UFC, because it is just something that I've worked so hard for over the years, and it's something that it's really a respect thing from Dean for me. For the last 2 years, I've had my brown belt, and maybe even more than that. But people have always told me, I actually think it's been 3 years since I've had my brown belt. The last year at least, I've had everyone tell me, they're like, you deserve a black belt, you need to have a black belt. And it's I'm just sort of like, yeah, whatever. It means nothing to me when other people say it. But to actually have that acknowledgement from Dean Thomas that he believes me, he believes in me to this point, and he believes that I'm at that level, that's what really means the world to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, yeah, I think it's really cool. As much as I would love to see you get in the octagon, kind of like Tyron Woodley's style or something, I think it's so much more fitting for you two to have that moment between the two of you. And then I can't imagine that feeling you had at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., just like, or, you know, obviously it's not for you there. Like it's the middle of the day there or whatever. It's evening and just like, you're just waiting for like the people you care about to like wake up so you can share like, hey, hey, mom and dad, like the last 9 years were for something, like, and it's just like, you're always proving something to yourself as a competitor. And I mean, these hours you put in to get this black belt, they're not showing up on the TV screens. You know, you post on Instagram, but you're not like a lot of other fighters where you're posting every time you seem to train, because otherwise you'd have endless stories. So it's like, I just really respect, and I think it's so fitting how you got your black belt. So, I mean, you're the UFC record holder currently for most submissions and finishes in the UFC. So it just, as a, you know, from the female division. So it makes sense at the same point, you know, so.
Dean said to me whenever he gave it to me, he's like, in jiu-jitsu and in fighting, we don't necessarily have like a college degree where you get your diploma. So this is like that for me. This is that like graduating moment where it's like, I finally deserve this. But it's really just the beginning. Like there's levels to this shit, and black belt is just the start.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'll stop patting you on the back for it now, because I know you're not a fan of that anyway. So, so shifting a little bit here. It's been, here's Sam putting in a little bit of love for you as well. So, you know, there you go. No longer the brown belt hottie. You're not a black belt hottie. So congrats. You are a huge part of Inside the Distance, whether you realize it or not. I mean, Garrett's kind of beating us to it here, but you have been a red hot kind of money making machine as you've started to bet on fights. And it started out as like you were using us for advice, but now it's like you kind of listen a little bit. I mean, you were tuning into the comments last week, you know, whether that's because you're trapped in your room in quarantine or not. We're not going to, you know, acknowledge that. We're going to pretend that it's because we're must-see TV. We'll be back tonight at 8 p.m., by the way, people. Anyways, you've started to bet on fights a little bit. And you're really, really good at it. You've got the biggest upset in UFC history with Shayna Dobson. And most bettors would be like, okay, you bet on Shayna Dobson. You not only did that, you parlayed Shayna Dobson into like parlay with Frankie Edgar and I think a few other parlays. And the entire time I might have been saying something to the effect of you're donating money. And so, you know, what do you feel that fighters kind of bring a little bit of an edge when it comes to reads on fights that someone like myself never stepped into the octagon, never come close to, don't quite, because I definitely noticed some. So I'm curious your perspective from betting and what that's been like for you.
Honestly, like, yeah, I have been fairly successful so far. I've only been betting for like probably 3 or 4 months, and I think I've put $75 in total, and I've made like I think 800 or 900 out of it so far. So
that's insane. About that. Yeah, that's insane. Like we need to have you on at one point to break down a card when you're not so busy. But like, yeah, like I mean, that's a rate that, I mean, these professional podcast odds makers, these people who are selling their picks are not making that kind of money. So it's every week it's successful.
I feel like being a fighter, like you said, like we do have a little bit more of an insight. Like I can, I guess you can break people down a little bit easier. And I just know what I'm looking at a little bit more. Obviously, you guys study it more than anything, but it's like I study it in a different kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, you've trained with especially with the female fights at this point. I'm not betting on female fights without at least trying to get some information out of you, because it's like your reads on these are so spot on because you've trained with so many of these girls, I think, and competed against them. And in general, even if you haven't, I think you just you've got a really sharp mind and a read on those fights particularly. So it's like, which has always been a weakness of mine. So I appreciate it. I've made a lot of money since you've started betting on fights also. Because I missed out on the Shayna Dobson one. I was like, you're insane, like more insane than usual.
I did the one bet on Shayna, and then I did a 2-fight parlay with Shayna and Frankie, and that like sent me over the moon. I think it was like a $5, and then I got like 200 or 300 out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like these are absurd things. I mean, these are just like absurd, and it fits. I mean, with like what you've done your career so far. I mean, before the UFC, through the UFC, you've faced pretty much good competition throughout. I am going to shift now to Polyana a little bit. Get some thoughts on Polyana Bontello. I hope everybody watching knows that you fight next week on the featured prelim. So we're not on the main card yet, but we're the featured prelim. So like, I'm getting a little more happy. You're going to have a number next to your name, which is something that I don't think you're paying attention to at this point, which I respect completely. And I give you a lot of credit taking a fight with Polyana here, who, while she's lower in the rankings, she's a very, very dangerous, legitimate fighter. She had a 30-second finish, obviously, of Suri Kondo with that body kicks. But the fight that I know that we've both watched a little bit, and I definitely saw a little bit of a path to victory, was the Cynthia Calvillo fight. For one, I have my thoughts on Cynthia Calvillo and her rise in the flyweight division so quickly. It's a fight I will not hide. I want to see you get back at some point. You did fight her at a close decision before you're in the UFC, right before you got in the Tough House. But what are your thoughts on Polyana? She's coming off a win about a year and a half ago off Lauren Mueller, who we had our opinions on. Also, I'll stay respectful here, though. Everybody who's here is legit, works hard, of course. So I've definitely been doing a little Instagram stalking on Polyana. She's definitely working hard, doing a lot of like explosive jumping over hurdles and, box jumps and all these other things, that are very, very neat for Instagram. Bomb dia. What are your thoughts on your opponent? And was there even a thought on when it was an opponent that wasn't exactly known after a pretty well-known fighter in Courtney Casey, who was ranked?
I guess like my thought process is, if I want to be the champion one day, I have to be able to beat all these girls. So why didn't I fight? Like it's just more money in my pocket. Like I should be able to beat her. Like, especially looking at her record in the UFC right now, she's 3-1, and all 3 of her wins are against girls who have losing records in the UFC, or they've been cut from the UFC already. So I don't feel like they're necessarily impressive wins. And like you said, she lost to Cynthia Cabello, who first round finish. And I feel like that's ideally how my fight's gonna go, is same kind of way that Cabello did it. I keep on saying that I want to beat her. Like, she got it at like 4 minutes and 30 seconds. So I'm just trying to get a little bit faster than her.
I mean, you literally finished your last fight by a rear naked choke with no hooks in. And Polyana, in each one of her fights, whether she's won or lost, when she gets to her feet, gives up her neck and back as she gets to her feet every time. And her neck is long. Her neck is very long. She's this is another strawweight, and, who's moving up the flyweight again. So, it's just and that leads me to another thing. You as a flyweight, there's so many things that are unique as you as a flyweight. For one, you're 25, the only one who's ranked in the top 10 with both their ACLs, who's under 26. For two, you have your weight pretty much on point at this point. You're at what, 127 or something? Like, it's just, it's like you're literally gonna have to wake up and maybe cut a little bit of weight. The advantage that leads to you is just absolutely insane to me. Because you're one of the strongest, definitely when it comes to grappling, I think are the strongest person in this division. You're able to keep that strength and push that gas to get to finish with 30 seconds to go in your last fight. And you had plenty to go too. And meanwhile, your opponent couldn't stop from calling you a fucking blanket. Which is just still one of the most like insane things I've heard in a fight. I couldn't believe it. And you were just flowing in there. I know that you said you weren't a huge fan of the fight because you didn't get to punch her in the face enough, but it's just like, I mean, my mom watched the fight. My mom doesn't watch anybody's fights except yours. And your fight was like the second fight she's ever watched in her life. And she's like, she just has tremendous body control. Like my mom even knows you're a black belt. So, my mom has, an eye for talent. No, she's not fighting a ostrich feature presentation, but she is fighting a Brazilian named Poliana Bontello. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this fight for sure. And just I guess, like, before I let you go, because I know you got to train again here, and I mean, just in general, like you do a lot of interviews. It's one of the things I really do respect with you. As much as I'd love for you to just be our little interview, like you're out there, you're like the hardcore fans like dream for a reason. Like you're like, whether it's 5, it doesn't matter. You're doing all these interviews. And so I do appreciate you again making the time. And I was happy to get up and do this ahead of time. I've had both dogs right next to me the whole time. So Chico not able to wake up for the fights. Those are either, but they're both big fans. I know you've been away from Rob, amongst other things. Like you've been away from pretty much everything you love, except for you get to be away from people basically by hanging on that's the one thing you've got to hang on to, but you don't have your dog. You've got a little bit of a beach scene there, but like you don't have your dog. You haven't been smoking weed for over a week now, I believe at this point, which as a pothead, I find commendable. And I know how challenging that is. But I mean, you were able to get over there a little bit early because of Dean working with looking for a fight and everything. Overall, compared to the Vegas scene you had for your last fight, thoughts on Fight Island? Would you be, David asked the question too, would you be interested in coming back to Fight Island later this year? Yeah, with how it goes.
I guess like Fight Island is awesome, obviously, but ideally I wouldn't like to fly as much. It's a dope experience to be able to see everything. But personally, like I would like to, I love the fight more than anything else. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here to fight. I don't like necessarily the traveling or, like you said, leaving my dog or things like that. I don't necessarily like all this stuff, but sacrifices have to be made if you want to reach your goals. So it's like those are sacrifices that I'm willing to make for a couple weeks just to get there, get my hand raised, and I'm ready to get back home and be in my bed with a joint.
Yeah, like I mean, that's why I really brought it up. I mean, it's just like it's a consistency with you that I see where you are willing to sacrifice the comforts, willing to sacrifice willing to sacrifice, the higher amount of Instagram followers because you're more interested in working here than doing other things to get more attention to yourself. So I just really, commend that. And I do know that is a challenge. Anyway, with all of the tests right now with negative marijuana tests, reversing fights, just had Taekwon Jones, the guy who won a few weeks ago, he tested positive. A few others are testing positive for weed right now. So it's really just one less thing, I guess, to even concern about, but it's just a weird thing in general. Hopefully they figure this out in 2021, why there's all of a sudden people testing positive for weed again.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of these COVID fights, like the fights that have been happening during this COVID period, that they're short notice fights. So it's like, I know with Tim Elliott, he had the same issue where he took a fight on like less than a week's notice and tested positive for marijuana. But like, other than that, like I've definitely cut it too close. I've definitely pushed my limits with how close I've smoked coming up to a fight. And I've been like hitting a weed pen on the way to the airport on Monday morning and then fought on Saturday, and I've been fine. So I really think it's like, it has to be the short notice fights or these guys are just like smoking fight me. That's the only way. They're
just like and then just like because they all had the dab excuse at once, which is just like, okay, like this is like literally one guy saw it and then they're all just like, sure, let's blame dabs, like let's go. But either way, just so I mean, you would consider Fight Island again, but it in general wouldn't be your preference.
No matter what, I'm down to fight. If they offer me a fight, it doesn't matter where it is. I'm going to that place. But preferably, I'd love Vegas.
Yeah, yeah. So you're about a week out now. Do you do anything because you're going to be fighting at about like 3 a.m. local time or so? Actually, I'm not. I believe your card starts at 7:30 Eastern time, meaning it would be like starting at 4 a.m. I believe. So you're probably going on around 6 a.m. Fight Island
Uh,
time.
yeah, my coach Dean Thomas, obviously, he has a little bit connections with the higher ups in the UFC. So he was able to get a little bit more of an accurate fight time for me. So depending on how fast the earlier fights go, they said I should be fighting probably around 5 to 5:30 a.m. over here, which isn't too rough. Like I know there's some fights that were starting at like 3 a.m. and that would have been a rough one for me.
Yeah, yeah. I was following Tracy Cortez, who I think has been staying up and like keeping a totally normal, like staying up in the middle of the night throughout the entire time she's there. So, yeah, it's just so like you're basically not seeing anybody other than Dean. It's just you, Dean. Occasionally, you run into some other fighters, and that is pretty much it at this point.
Oh yeah, essentially. I went to the pool on the first day, but it's like that's all there really is to do here. There's the pool, the beach, or the hotel room, and it's like I have so much to focus on. I meditate, I visualize, I read, I do a lot of mental work every single day. So it's like I'm focused on that a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because it's interesting watching different fighters and how they're experiencing or enjoying Fight Island. You're seeing some of these fighters who are fighting this week who are like riding bikes around the F1 track or, doing all this other stuff that it's just like, I don't see you doing any of that. And like, I just, I really, really, kind of respect that a lot. And it's just it's just consistent. You fought, you've been able to fortunately get a few more fights in this year after kind of the slow start. Hopefully you finish out strong here with another couple fights before the end of the year. You've really you had the trip up against Macy Barber last October 17th, and now this October 17th, you get to kind of reset that date. So that can be a date you don't have to kind of be pissed about when you see October 17th come around on the calendar. So, I guess so. Garrett does want to know about the Cortez fight. He's curious if you're at all aware of Stephanie Eggers, who's a pretty big 125er. I think she's fought at bantamweight a lot, or at 130. They're at bantamweight. She's fought at featherweight at times. So, do you have any thoughts on that fight, or kind of any fights on the card coming up this weekend, or are you kind of focused?
I would say honestly, haven't looked into it too much. I actually haven't even heard of Stephanie before. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I've never watched her fight, so I'm not really sure about that one. But I'm definitely going to be looking into the fights, maybe try to place a few bets if I can this weekend.
Yeah. Well, you have to find a surrogate in America to make your bets for you. Since there's been a couple things that have been held up, being in Abu Dhabi, morals and everything like that. But anyways, I won't keep you too much longer here. I think that it's pretty clear your prediction is a finish of any kind in the first round, preferably that rear naked choke, though.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm always searching for the throw. It's like that's just my thing. Everybody knows it's coming, and I'm still gonna get it. So I'm always it's just a race to get to the throw. See how fast I can get there.
That is excellent news to hear. But as you do know, you are a -300 favorite currently. So the secret's finally out. Like, folks have finally woken the fuck up on Gillian Robertson, and I'm bummed from a betting perspective. But it just means that we're gonna get a little more creative this next weekend. And if you are up tonight, we'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern, which is just a nice cool 4 a.m. for you. So if you are having trouble sleeping, we'll be there for you. But otherwise, we'll be talking soon, and I'm looking forward to seeing you perform next Saturday. It's going to be on ESPN starting at 7:30 Eastern. You are fighting Polyana Bontello on the featured prelim main event. So, Gillian, thank you as always. We'll catch up after the fight too. And, I just have a great day there, and keep up the grind. And congratulations on the black belt again. I really do mean that. And I appreciate you making the time while you're over there to catch up with me and say hi to Rob on your FaceTime later if I haven't missed that too.
Thank you. It was awesome
All right.
talking to you.
Awesome to talk to you as always. See you later.
Bye.
All right. And that is all. So time to see the numbers go down as it's just me here. We will be back this evening at 8 p.m. Eastern time, Garrett and I, to cover our fights as always on Inside the Distance. We'll be covering the fights for this Saturday and looking to make that money. As always, go follow Gillian at Savage UFC on Instagram. Show her some love. She's going to go and get that neck, as she said, this upcoming next Saturday. And Craig will be talking about Impa later tonight. I just kind of wanted to come on early today to catch up with Gillian. She's our favorite here, my favorite especially. And so we'll definitely be covering Impa later, but we are big fans of him for sure. And this weekend he's going to kill it again. So that guy is right up there as another special fighter. But that's all for this morning. It's 10:30 in the morning. I got to get to work now, walk some dogs. So I will see you all tonight at 8 p.m. for some bets with my boy, Garrett, the fight analyst. So let's get that money, baby, and have a great day. Kill it out there, people. Peace.